This week we have a very special guest. We have a voice actor, an improv comedian, and a very, very talented guy that we are glad to be on the show. It's been a long time coming. Welcome to the show, Mark Meer of BioWare fame, improv comedian from Canada. Welcome to the show, Mark.
Thanks very much for having me.
So since we have you on the show, Mark, the listeners probably know that we're going to be talking a lot about voice work, a lot about video game work, because you're really famous for BioWare, and a bit about your background with comedy. So that's what I want to start off first, is your background with comedy. I've been reading up on a lot of your work, and you run an improv comedy group. You've done you have like a record for a longest, was it comedy soap opera without sleep?
Yes, although I should preface this by saying I don't run anything. I usually avoid responsibility if I can. But yeah, I am part of a group, several groups actually. Dynasty is the one that you were mentioning, who does Dynasty provides soap opera, and we've been running years now, 23 seasons. I joined in the third season, and basically we're a soap opera that runs weekly, and it's all improv. You know who your character is, but the storyline could go anywhere. And we have a director who calls the show live, so you sort of hear the calls at the same time that the audience does. And as part of that, we do a fundraiser called the Soapathon every year, which is a up to 53-hour-long show that a lot of the actors do without sleeping. And I was the first one who actually went the distance and did it all the way through, proving that you could do it without dying.
Something we can't usually do in insanity mode in Mass Effect.
That's true. Yeah, so it is. Yeah, it's a bit like being in a living video game, really, because you're basically playing a character for more than 2 days without sleep. So you're being that character more than you're being yourself, and it's really fun. It's one of my favorite things to do. They've also recently started one in London. Some British friends of ours, students of Ken Campbell, who was a big figure in British avant-garde and theater, who really got into improv in his later years. And he sent some of his students over and associates over to observe ours and play in ours. And then they started their own in London. And I've been doing that one for about the past 7 years or so. And the last one was a science fiction theme. And I actually played Commander Shepard, although I spelt it like the guy who takes care of sheep. And yeah, that was a lot of fun. We had some people who from Doctor Who actually came and improvised with us as well. We had a whole Doctor Who shift. And yeah, so it's basically one continuous narrative, all improvised, and people come from all over the world, from Canada and the States and Australia to do the one in London, and also the one that we do here in Canada. So that's Dynasty. And then another group that I work with is Rapid Fire Theatre, and they're also a very well-known improv group here in Canada and around the world. And they host a big improv festival every year called Improvaganza, which is coming up, actually, and I'll be performing at that. And we also tour across the world, and so I've done shows in Germany with them and stuff like that. And actually, I met my wife when I was doing shows with Rapid Fire Theatre. We met in the States, but she's from Britain, actually. So improv.
It just cut you off a little bit there. You said after you met your wife, you said, so improv.
Oh, I said, so improv's been pretty good.
Okay. So first question then is, which is your main passion? Which do you consider yourself, an improv comedian or a voice actor? Is there one that you consider more than the other, or do you just consider both equal?
Well, I guess I do improv more often because I'm constantly doing improv, and I travel all over the place to do improv. And I guess that one would say that's my focus, but most actors of my acquaintance don't tend to pigeonhole themselves like that. They're actors, and the gig that you're doing happens to be the gig that you're doing. So you might do a voice gig, and then you do other things. Like I have a radio show here in Canada, a national radio show called The Irrelevant Show, and we're just got renewed for a new season for that. And also there's a TV show I do here called Tiny Plastic Men, which is on Super Channel here in Canada, exclusive to Super Channel for now. But we just got renewed for our third season, so we'll be shooting that in July. So yeah, ultimately, as I say, most actors that I know consider themselves actors. Jobs they get are the jobs that they do.
And it must be a real advantage to have your wife work with you on lots of things. Like she does BioWare voices as well, and
she does
comedy.
Yeah, she actually had the session after mine today, and she's been in many of the games that I've been in as well. She was Ranathanoptis in Mass Effect, and a sorry scientist who you encounter a couple of times, and many other characters throughout the trilogy and the DLCs. And she actually does larger roles than me in Dragon Age, the Dragon Age series. I've done some voices on that. It was like the talking Darkspawn in Awakenings, and many other minor characters throughout all the Dragon Age games. But Belinda she's always had much larger parts because she's British, of course, and they do tend to cast Brits for the Dragon Age roles. So she was Goldana in the first game. She was the Baroness, the main villain in Awakenings, and lots of Chantry folk and things like that. So, and she'll of course be in Inquisition.
It looks like my co-host James has joined us. So James, say hi to Mark Meer.
Hello, Mr. Meer.
Hello, sir. How are you doing?
I am quite well, and might I say, it is a massive pleasure being able to speak with you.
Ah, I see what you did there.
Yeah.
I had to.
I am having upon you. You described as massive. Yeah, I understand. Thank you.
No, I had to say it. I've been like, ever since I found out, I was like, oh, that's what I'm going to say.
No, something's got to be said.
You know, I was holding on to that one.
He's been chewing on it for a while.
Indeed I have. And also, if I may, hello again, Kelsey. Always a lovely pleasure to speak with you.
Hello, James.
Ah, yes. But anyway, back to the interview. It's all about Mark Meer.
Oh, sure.
So one last question about you working with your wife. Is it nice to be able to work on the same games as her, so that you guys just need to talk about spoilers and you have someone you can talk to the entire time when you can't mention, say, the end of Mass Effect 3 for a year before it comes out? Or
yeah, actually, that is nice. That is nice to know that we both have NDAs, and so we may speak freely. And of course, we also work together on a lot of other projects. For example, she is in my TV show, the previously mentioned Tiny Plastic Men, and we do a lot of improv together. She's in Dynasty as well. It is nice to be able to work together.
So I'm going to ask a question, and I'm going to start letting Kelsey ask some and James ask some. So the first question I want to ask, how did you first get involved with BioWare? Because pretty much you're in every BioWare game that's not related to Star Wars. Which I'm not sure how you're not in the Old Republic, because like every voice actor on the planet is in the Old Republic.
I actually did demo work on Old Republic, and as I discovered with talking with Raphael Sabarge, of course, he ended up being Karth Anasi in that game, and I was the demo Karth. so yeah, I totally did do work on Old Republic, the first one that BioWare did. My relationship with them started back in. And I basically was lucky enough to be around when they were still doing general auditions. And I often, this question often comes up. So I've said this in many interviews, but my very first gig with BioWare was one line at the end of Baldur's Gate 2 in the final cutscene. So you basically had to beat the entire game to see my one line as an evil cleric. And they enough that they got me back for Baldur's Gate Throne of Baal as Cyric, the god of murder, and then also, like a hobgoblin shaman and some other stuff. And I worked on all the subsequent BioWare games since. I worked, on Neverwinter Nights, and the thing also that I have mentioned before is that being a Dungeons and Dragons player probably helped me get, being brought back to BioWare, because I understood the game, and I understood, things like alignment and things like that. So people could just tell me that this guy is lawful neutral, and I would know what that meant. So yeah, that was how it started with BioWare.
Okay, Kelsey, fire away on the fan side.
Well, first, may I say I absolutely love, as a fellow D&D player myself, that you play D&D. It's always great to hear about other celebrities that do.
Okay. And I should mention I'm old, so like I started playing first edition.
Ooh.
When I was a kid.
Seiko, man.
Oh yeah, was there. I remember when comeliness was still a stat.
Oh, God. Don't remind me.
That was around.
And ironically enough, we had Ed Greenwood on last week.
Oh, really?
Who founded the Realms, and so it fits right well as a continuation.
I'm very honored to have been on the same show as Ed Greenwood.
So, BioWare aside, what got you into voice acting and comedy in general? Was it something you've always wanted to do, or was there a time that inspired you to get into this line of work?
Well, comedy in general, I loved comedy. SCTV and Monty Python, those were like the big influences on me when I was growing up. Kids in the Hall, of course. And I never really pursued drama because where I went to school, they didn't offer it. It was basically just academics or sports, and I guess I leaned towards academics, but mostly towards comic books and Dungeons and Dragons. And so I even had to take art by correspondence because it was a very small school. So I didn't really consider the possibility of a career in acting or anything until I moved to the city, to Edmonton, to go to university, and got into improv through a group called Three Dead Trolls in a Baggie, which were a local comedy troupe. They used to have a TV show on CBC back in the 90s. And they basically did a show where they had teenagers write sketch comedy, and they directed it. And the kids would perform in it. And I was one of those kids. And this was all part of something called the Teen Festival of the Arts, which was held at the Citadel Theater, which is a big theater, which oddly enough I just worked at. I just did a show that closed there last week. And so that was really my first experience actually being on stage in front of an audience. And they recommended improv as a good way to generate sketch comedy, like as a tool for writing sketches. And then I'd never been exposed to improv before because, again, I didn't take drama in high school. And as soon as I did it, I just loved it. And so long story short, I used to be enrolled in science at university, and then I quickly dropped out and became a improviser and actor.
My turn. Yeah. Well, you know what? Going on that and, your start in acting and whatnot, what really inspired you, though, to get into voice acting, per se?
Well, I'd always loved voices, and like cartoons, animation was a big deal for me growing up as well. So, Mel Blanc, of course, is one of my heroes. And the Batman the Animated Series, when that came out, that's just an amazing influence on me. But again, like I said, I sort of decided that I wanted to become an actor, and of course I didn't have another job, so I had to search for every bit of work I could get. So voice acting wasn't something that I specifically went, I'm going to go be a voice actor. It's more that auditions for BioWare came up, and friends of mine had worked for them before. Guys from the previously mentioned Three Dead Trolls in a Baggie had been voices on a game called DK2 that BioWare did. And I knew Shauna Perry, who worked at BioWare, and I was just like, oh, God, I would love to do that. Please let me know. And so she let me know about the generals. And Shauna actually still works at BioWare. And I should mention her as she was one that was in my corner from the start.
We have a lot of questions from fans, some of which are going to be very strange, but fans can ask strange things. So I'm going to be sprinkling these in as Kelsey and James ask their other questions.
Sure.
So this one comes from a site called Cerberus Daily News. Mm-hmm. And this is a Mass Effect related question. And I actually got this one from 4 other listeners, and so I guess I have to ask it.
Okay.
Garrus is extremely popular in Mass Effect. And they want to know, would you have done or enjoyed doing romance dialogue with Garrus, Brandon Keener, if it was put into the game? They want to know if Commander Shepard would have romance with Garrus in Mass Effect if offered.
Oh, sure, yeah. If they'd written that, then yeah, I would have read it. I loved doing scenes with Garrus. That was always fun. Of course, depending on who recorded first, it would be whether I had Brandon's voice or he'd be listening to me or Jennifer. And of course, there was the relationship with Caden, which only came about in the 3rd game, but there had been dialogue recorded for that relationship, as far back as the 1st game. And some of it did make it into the game, I believe, and people found it, went through the code and found it. And I think it's even the scenes from the 1st game are up on YouTube somewhere.
And just a continuation of that question, since you are Shepard and being in Shepard's head, who do you feel, or who would you have romanced if you had chosen out of all the characters in 1 through 3? Which ones do you feel that Shepard would actually have gone with, or you as Shepard would have gone with?
Well, I can tell you who Shepard went with when I was playing. So my Renegade started the first game romancing Ashley, and then switched to Miranda. And my Paragon was romance.
Score there.
And my Paragon was romancing Liara, and then switched to Tali.
Yeah.
He just took his run of the mill of all the ladies.
Ashley and Miranda are my favorites. I'll go with those.
And funny enough, Liara and Tali are my favorites.
And yeah, of course, my choices in the second game were influenced by the fact that I knew who was going to be available as like a romantic playable NPC or party NPC. And I knew that both my first choices were gone, so I didn't have many qualms about switching over. Although eventually I do have to do a playthrough where to one love interest through the whole trilogy, because that does change things, that does influence things.
Who did you keep in 3? Because you said Miranda and so on for the second one. How about the third one, where it actually does kind of matter from the first 2 games?
I haven't actually done my complete playthrough with 3 yet. Like, I played about 8 or 9 hours at BioWare before the release, and subsequently got to see everything that was in the game. But of course, now I don't have that, or didn't have that added impetus of, well, I got to finish the next one. And of course, that was at BioWare, so when I do eventually get around to my full playthrough, I will have to play all that stuff again.
And you'll have the Citadel DLC and all these other ones that flesh out.
Actually, I won't have DLC because I don't game online. I've denied myself online gaming and downloading just because my productivity is already low. If I had online, it would drop to 0. And, you know, I have to write things and I have deadlines and things like that. So I have denied myself this pleasure. So I've never actually personally played any of the DLC, although Citadel was definitely my favorite to record. And close second was probably Lair of the Shadow Broker. Although, and again, I've watched lots of playthroughs, like seen all kinds of mods people have done to the DLC, like the one where you can turn Shepard into a Krogan when he fights the Shadow Broker. So you have these 2 giant opponents fighting each other. And I think, yeah, let's see. Oh, yeah, that's the other thing. I've never actually played where I've had Zaid in my party, although I love the character.
Oh, I love Zaid. I was so sad to learn about his voice actor because Zaid was easily one of my favorite companions in the entire series.
I was a big fan of his work, and was even before I worked on this game, because of course I knew him actually from Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Okay, well, speaking of fans and crazy, those two tend to go hand in hand.
Okay. I'll hear what the follow-up is. Go on.
Yeah. Do you have any real fun, crazy fan experiences that you can share with us?
I have lots of fun ones. Yeah, just great time with the fans, especially at cons. The first time that I walked into, it was at Dragon Con, like just walked into a convention floor and somebody dressed as Commander Shepard walked by me. That was a very special moment. That ranks up there with the moment that I got the Commander Shepard action figure and opened it and put it on my shelf. It's always been a great time at cons and meeting fans and like seeing the stuff that they've made, the amazing costumes, and then also like, you know, fan merch that they've made, like, you know, key rings and things like that. And many of those have ended up being given to me as gifts. I got a little crocheted Hanar. I also have a Beanie Baby Hanar someone gave to me. And yeah, so I have great fan stories. I don't know how many crazy ones. I guess the craziest stuff is that occasionally when you're just at the table and you're signing 8x10s and things like that, someone will be so nervous when they actually get to talk to you, and it's just like, oh, I'm just a guy who got a gig. I'm really glad you like the game, but there's no need to be so nervous when you're meeting me.
So let's one quick follow up to that one. What was it like when you showed up to, I think it was Dragon Con, dressed as Commander Shepard, unannounced, and what was the responses to that?
That went over very well. That went over very well indeed. A fellow who I met at Dragon Con, actually, he and his wife were both dressed as Commander Shepards when I met them. And of course, I had to introduce myself because they had amazing costumes. And they kept in touch, and we stayed friends. David Carpenter is his name. And he built me he basically, a couple years after that, a few months before the Dragon Con of that year, he just got in touch with me and says, hey, I'd like to build you a free set of Commander Shepard armor. And what could I do but say, I'll wear it. Of course I'll wear it. Because I do costumes at cons anyway. Like, I usually bring down some supervillain costumes and whatnot. But to actually have a costume of Commander Shepard, and especially a high quality one, like the one David makes, like lights up at the back and the whole deal. So I basically wore it at Dragon Con that year and last year, and probably I will this year as well. And every year that I've had it there, I've marched in the parade with the N7 Elite costuming group. And so, again, just seeing the stuff that they come up with. There was a Volus there last year that Jared LaRosa, I believe, made, and it's amazing. He's quite a talented fellow, and as all of them are.
Okay, James, let's go to you.
All right. Well, as a bit of a follow-up to that, with the whole, getting the high-quality costume and, actually being the voice of Shepard, who do you associate, like, your own face to Commander Shepard more, or the generic face that, is on the covers?
I actually used the Mark Vanderloo face, like the scanned face, when I did my playthroughs. I initially did try to make a Commander Shepard that looked like me, but Caden has a monopoly on sideburns in the game because they didn't want the visual confusion between the two of them, so you can't actually Commander Shepard sideburns like that, and I actually have sideburns like Caden. So because I couldn't actually make it look like me, I went, I'll just go with the most detailed face.
So we had Jennifer Hale on. We actually had her on the day Mass Effect 3 came out. Sorry, it's my baby.
Lord Bruce.
This is Master Bruce. But we had Jennifer Hale on the day Mass Effect 3 came out, and so she talked about working with you and working with Casey Hudson and so on. Was there any competition between you and Jennifer Hale as Shepard, or did you guys compete, or do you guys collaborate more? Friendly competition, I'm assuming, if you had any.
Oh, well, first of all, I was very honored to get to be the other half of Commander Shepard to Jennifer Hale, just considering her body of work and her experience and her talent. She's amazing and one of the busiest voice actors in North America. And so, yeah, that was no thought of competition ever entered my mind anyway. And it was like being told, you'll be being cast with Meryl Streep in this movie, and you'll be playing the same character but different genders. So, yeah, it was a lot to live up to, certainly. And Jennifer and I never actually met face-to-face. Like, we communicated a little bit online, but we never actually met face-to-face until a con in, I believe it was 2011.
Wow, 2011 before you met the other half.
Yes.
And it's kind of ironic, though, that, she's I guess, as you said, the busiest voice actress in North America, but most people play as the male. Do you ever try to encourage your friends to play as her as well, or do you just look, I'm more popular, just stay with me?
No, I would encourage anyone who hasn't played as Jennifer to do so. Her performance is fantastic. And even if you play as Jennifer, you're forced to listen to me as a bunch of aliens, so...
She actually intimidated me into playing FemShep because she guilted me when she talked to me and she found out I was playing as male. She said I had to play as FemShep the next time, and I obeyed.
She did it. She did it.
Jeremiah
had absolutely no.
It was pretty great.
It was awesome. She was just like, "You will play," and he was like, "Yes, ma'am."
Yeah, don't mess with Jennifer. She is an actual action hero. Like, she climbs mountains and rides horses and stuff.
So let's go to Kelsey to some more of the fan site questions.
Sure.
Yes.
Well, this next question actually comes from my co-owner from the site. I run the board with my friend Vince DeFlippo, and one question he wanted to ask was not just with BioWare, but in all of the work that you've done in the industry, what's the one thing that you would consider was the most challenging voice acting job?
The most challenging voice acting job? Well, Commander Shepard, probably, just given the size of the role. It was, and the fact that you are counted on to deliver Paragon and Renegade performance. And it's a character that really has no established setting. Who's the real Commander Shepard? Everybody's Commander Shepard is different, different backgrounds, reacting in different ways. And so, yeah, that of course was a huge voice acting challenge. Just
to go on that one for a second, what was And did you have any difficulty performing like the grunts and groans and sounds in Mass Effect to go with like a dozen other voices to do it? How long were the sessions recording of Mass Effect and so on?
Well, I wouldn't say the exertion palettes were that difficult, and generally we had 4-hour sessions, and they would save things like exertion palettes for right at the end of sessions. Sessions were never longer than 4 hours because they don't want to tire out your voice and have it sound different than it from the beginning and end of the session. So, I guess the most physically challenging were voices like the Vorcha, which I basically did without much effects being put on it. So it was me just like screeching and blowing my voice out. And we all...
Could you do a Vorcha voice?
All right. I've done my recording for the day, so I think I can do a Vorcha. Break them!
Oh my God.
Wow. That was oh my God. So,
I had to. You said you didn't do it without any editing, so wow.
yeah.
Bravo.
Claps.
Yeah. I didn't.
Bruce smiled at that one.
Of course,
so
they were always fun, but that scene in particular was fun because some of the dialogue made it sound like it was a scene from Doctor Who, like "You are sent by Doctor." Getting to say that and playing an alien who says that. As a Doctor Who fan, that appealed.
Oh my God.
I just put that together in my head. Holy wow, I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, that's also in the booth. I was having a great time. Like every time they got to say something about the Doctor, it was a good time. And I think my director asked me, "Wow, you're really enjoying this?" I was like, "Yeah, it's like a Doctor Who scene." And so voices like that, those were physically challenging. The other one, like Volus, probably not so much challenging. That was just doing a lot of wheezing and being kind of stuffed up. Let's see, Vorcha were definitely the most vocally challenging, if not in a acting sense, in a physical sense.
James,
I know. I'm still getting over that. Well, moving off into a little bit more of the mythos of Mass Effect, This is something that I definitely wanted to ask, but the ending to Mass Effect 3.
Yes.
Any thoughts, opinions? How did you feel about that?
Oh, sure. This has come up before. As I have said many times before, I had no problem with the initial ending. I like Destroy best initially, probably because of that inhalation and that you see right at the very end. But I do think that, BioWare addressed a lot of the concerns that were raised, like there were issues of clarity that people had and closure that they wanted. And I think especially when taken with the Citadel DLC, which provides, I think, in many ways the emotional closure with all the characters. The extended edition, I think, went a long way to answering people's questions. And they weren't questions that I had because I kind of knew, but I knew, for example, that the intention wasn't to give the impression that all the Mass Effect plays were completely destroyed forever. And, the things like worrying about whether the Normandy was crash landed on a planet and, Tali and Garrus would starve, for example, because they couldn't digest the food. So I didn't have those concerns, but, people did because it was here as they wanted it to be. I think the extended edition did solve a lot of those because you got to see answers to questions and things like that. And you knew that the Armada, for example, wasn't going to be stranded on Earth. And with the extended edition, I would have to say that the Control ending is my new favorite, just because Shepard gets to be an immortal Reaper god, and before I've compared it to Shepard becomes Galactus at the end, and that one I like for a lot of reasons, not least of which because I got to voice that one.
Have you? What was your opinion on synthesize? When were you going to make everyone the same? That one, and I know the issues that were raised because it's like, well, you're essentially offering people without their consent, but maybe that's a moral gray area that games like this present, and I don't necessarily think it was shown as that's the right way. That's the only way that you can do it. And so I know some people had issues because, well, they're saying that that's the right way, and the right way is to take away people's free choice. But it's like, no, it's just one of the options that is presented to you. So I believe as we speak, EA is doing their press conference, So they're announcing things, such as they just announced Mass Effect coming to the new consoles. That just popped up on my feed. So
you know as much as I do.
Yeah, I was going to say, since you're in every BioWare game, is it safe to assume that you will probably be doing voices in Mass Effect? Probably not as Commander Shepard, of course, because they said he's not in there.
Well,
as some sort of.
I'm not sure if I could say either way, because they do have non-disclosure agreements and things like that.
They will hunt you down and get you on the pitch.
But I'm speculating because I don't know anything. Because I don't know anything, I'm free to speculate. I'd say, I've done a lot of aliens in the Mass Effect universe, so hopefully there's at least one of the species that I play around.
There has to be some Vorcha left. Only the planet got blown up.
Well, they're like cockroaches, so one would think.
Yeah, just the world got blown up, but they're still.
Yeah, Vorcha, exactly. Vorcha are like New York City cockroaches. Just when you think they're gone, nope, there they are.
And there's Hanar, too. If there's any Hanar kicking around, I'm usually them.
But you did say at the beginning, you just finished recording for Dragon Age Inquisition. That comes out in October. That's the big game BioWare is pushing at E3 right now.
Yes, and I did actually ask about that at BioWare when I was in. I said, do you mind if I mentioned on Twitter and Facebook that I was doing this? They went, yes, of course. But I wouldn't probably be able to say anything about the plot or who I'm playing.
Is there anything you can say to get us more excited than we already are? Because I don't think you can get us much up my butt.
Amazing. Yeah. It's pretty amazing. I'm actually really looking forward to getting to play that game. Because when I play Mass Effect, I know a lot about the plot and what's going to happen. And with Dragon Age, I can be surprised and just sort of encounter myself as various characters and like, oh, that's where I am, without knowing too much about where the story is going and whatnot.
Kelsey, do you have anything to add on to that? Since you're a bigger Dragon Age fan than I am.
Just that I can't wait, and I am planning on buying the $170 collector's edition.
Why am I not surprised?
I hear it's quite cool.
Yeah, I'm very excited about that. I don't spend money very often, but when I do, it's usually on electronics, and it's usually on stuff like that my mom's sitting there going, what do you need all these toys for? They're not toys, Mom.
They're collectible figurines, Mom.
She'll be really excited to see that tarot card deck. So you mentioned earlier that you were, pretty excited getting to work with, infamous Jennifer Hale. So out of all the people that you've worked with in the entertainment industry, so not just voice acting, but everything that you've done, who was one person that you were most excited to get to work with?
Oh, very hard to say, because especially on Mass Effect, there was, I could just say the cast of Mass Effect, just because of the number of people and whose work I really admire that I got to work with. Martin Sheen, Keith David, Lance Henriksen. These guys were all favorites of mine before I became an actor. So yeah, it'd be pretty hard to pick. Seth Green as well. I'm a huge fan of his work. So to get to work on a project with him and then subsequently meet him was amazing. Let's see. Well, actually, in theater and comedy, Joe Flaherty was definitely a person that I was really excited to get to work with. He played Guy Caballero and Count Floyd on SCTV, if you guys are familiar with that. And he's really a Canadian comedy legend. And he came and played Dynasty with us, actually, back in 1999. So, sorry, that's my phone. There we go. So, getting to meet and work with Joe Flaherty was a really big deal for me. Other people that I've met, like through Dynasty and improv, Colin Mockery from Whose Line Is It Anyway?
Oh, Colin Mockery.
Yes.
Yeah, he lives up to the rep. I just got to work with him in Toronto last December. Thinking back, let's see. Mike Myers. He actually came and played Dynasty. He's an old buddy of Dana Anderson, one of our directors and longtime founders, and they worked together in Second City. And it was. I've been very fortunate, as I say. I've got to meet a lot of people that I've admired over the years.
James, anything else to add to that?
That specific set of questions?
Or a new question.
Oh, actually, and let me add on a little tag to that. People that I was very excited to get to meet. I also got to work with some people before they were famous. Nathan Fillion, for one. Yes, he's a good friend of ours and alumni of my theater company here in Edmonton.
I'm so jealous right now.
Oh my god!
And Nathan was in both Dynasty and Rapid Fire Theater as well.
Now, James.
Oh, good lord! I don't even know where to go right now.
I have one if you want to.
Yes, please.
With your thoughts. So you did voices in the Baldur's Gate 1 and 2 enhanced editions. What was it like returning to that franchise after a decade of growth and voice work? You know, you've gotten a lot more experience with Bioware. What was it like returning to those games? Was it like an old friend, or was it like, oh, that's what this game was like? What was it like returning to the Baldur's Gate franchise after 10 years, more than 10 years?
Very much like old friend status, I would say. Yeah, I had a great time. Because, again, I'm an old school D&D player, and like seeing the fact that they were still using, I think, second edition rules was pretty fun. And I like playing those games back when they came out. And this time around, doing the enhanced edition, I got to be one of the party NPCs, actually. Rasad, who's a monk, and he's a new member of the party. And also I got to be the main villain of the Black Pits, which was a really fun character. Baloth the Entertainer, who's sort of an insane drow sorcerer who kidnaps the party. It's the gladiatorial game that's within the enhanced edition. And he also appears in the main game as well. And he was a lot of fun. He's basically me doing my best version of, or my tribute to Mark Hamill's Joker, I think. And then I got to play like a ton of other characters in those games, like probably a dozen. I got to be a Beholder and a Rakshasa and goblins and many other characters. And I think Adoy as well, who's in one of the other NPC quests.
James, are you good to go now?
Well, actually, yeah, I did have one question I wanted to ask, touching into other games that are at Mass Effect. Just kind of an out there one, but what was it like working on Jade Empire? Because that was a really cool game, in my opinion, and I'm just curious as to how that kind of went, like, opinions of the game, if you have played it, working on it, anything that you might have to say about it.
I enjoyed playing it. I had a really good time playing it. I had like mostly small parts in that one. A buddy of mine, Josh Dean, though, he played Henpeck Ho, who was one of the party NPCs. Let's see, who did I play in that? Oh, I played Zhang the Ox Carrier, who was the ogre in the one of the taverns, who was sad because he'd killed the ox that he worked with. And I got to be mostly villains. I think I was the Watcher at the Lotus Assassins Guild, and a bunch of other Lotus Assassins, mostly bad guys in that one. But yeah, I had a great time with Jade Empire, and I remember at the time just it being again a really cool world that I'd love it if they actually did a sequel at some point to Jade Empire, because I think it was one of their first unique worlds, because they'd worked on, of course, Dungeons and Dragons, like Forgotten Realms game and Star Wars universe stuff. And Jade Empire was one of BioWare's early attempts at world building, which I think was a successful one, because I wanted to see more of that world.
It was a very successful one. At least if they don't do a sequel, they should at least do an HD remake release that they like to do now.
Yeah, something. Just even like an extended cut.
Yeah, that would fun.
So I just got texted another fan message that he's begging me to ask before we run out of time.
Oh, I knew it.
So, this is one for Mass Effect. He wants to know where the Shepard dance came from and whether or not you approve of Shepard's dance moves.
I'll say yes. I certainly approve of Shepard's dance moves. They're part of the legend. They're really part of the legend. Apparently, now this might be apocryphal. I don't know if this is true necessarily, but this is what I've heard. They got a guy in to do all the motion capture for the Shepard avatar, and it was specifically like combat stuff and things like that. And I believe he was a Marine actually, and in any case, he was a member of the armed forces. And so they brought him in for running around with the guns and a lot of action stuff. And at the end of the session, they went, okay, now we're going to do some dancing stuff. And the guy was like, oh, hey, man, I don't dance. So, get somebody else for that. And they were just like, okay, well, we'll just use it as placeholder. Just do whatever. This won't end up in the game, and we'll get somebody else into the dancing. So the guy, did what you see in the game, and I guess it was beloved enough to stick around. Nobody ever replaced that. So that is why Shepherd dances like that.
Oh my goodness! 'Cause I know the easiest way for me to make my wife laugh her collective butt off is to imitate the Shepherd dance. Never ceases to amaze her. She could be sad, upset. Shepherd dance, instantaneous smile and laughter.
I think it's a crowd pleaser. Let's face it.
I think the only dance that I've seen in like a game or animation that entertained me more was like the way they dance in like the Batman Beyond cartoon whenever they go to a club.
Oh, God.
Is always hilarious.
That is.
I remember the dancing from the old Ralph Bakshi Spider-Man cartoon from the 70s.
Oh my God.
That was good.
Yes.
So, Kelsey, do you got more questions?
I have endless supplies of questions, honey. I'm a woman. I can keep talking all day long.
Well,
Dude, you're asking Kelsey this. This is a horrible. Just be like, Kelsey, would you like to go again?
Pretty much.
Go on.
Okay, so my next question, I'm asking, one for myself, but also for several of my personal friends. As someone who is aspiring to get into voice acting in the entertainment industry myself, when you're asked, do you have any general advice that you tend to give to people, and not even just with voice acting, but getting into BioWare specifically, which at least for me, I'm a huge fan of everything that BioWare puts out.
Well, my joke answer that I always give is use a time machine to go back in the 90s and get it on the ground floor like I did. Yeah, I wish I had more concrete advice to give. I always recommended improv as a great tool for any branch of acting. It's the lessons it teaches you, and specifically with voice acting, just practical skills that it teaches you really help.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've done some improv. I just moved back to the West Coast from the East Coast, so I'm kind of short on cash. Hopefully that will change soon, but
Hopefully.
We miss you already, Kelsey.
There's not much money left there.
Yeah, there's not a lot of money in California.
None. It's all the money is gone.
And it sucks because, really, if you want to get into acting, basically Los Angeles, I'm in the place where I should be. But, it's difficult.
Yes, I've got many friends in LA. And I go there occasionally myself.
So we have lots of fans who have requested if you could do a bumper for us.
Sure.
Because maybe a couple if we can. Because when Jennifer Hill was on, she did this is Commander Shepard and Bombay Radio is my favorite podcast on the Citadel. And they would like a matching bumper if you do that.
Sure. So you want I'm Commander Shepard or this is Commander Shepard?
This is Commander Shepard and Bombay Radio is my favorite podcast on the Citadel.
Okay. You got it. I'm Commander Shepard, and Bombad Radio is my favorite podcast on the Citadel.
Fantastic. James, is there any other ones you think we should do?
I can't even think. I'm just like, oh my God, he said it.
Maybe we can get a Vorcha thing.
Sure, yeah.
Oh yeah, that would be kind of cool.
The Bombad Radio, I can't even think of what a Vorcha would say about it.
Okay, I'll work out something. Hold on, actually,
improv. There you go.
I'm going to get a little water. I realized that actually that's was the missing factor in the earlier Vorcha I did for you. Normally, when I did the Vorcha, I'd sort of have half a mouthful of water.
What?
In the booth, just so it would have like this little gurgling effect as well.
So you can spit it on the microphone as you go?
Yeah, exactly. Hold on, I'll be right back.
That's awesome. I do voice acting and I do it with my mouth half full.
Said every woman ever.
I'm always setting you up. Ask Jack, I have missed you.
Hey guys, I'm back.
Awesome.
You're listening to Bombard Radio. What's your favorite station on Citadel?
Thank you so much.
Holy
So, James and Kelsey, you guys, we'll give you an opportunity to ask a last question if you have any more to go.
I'm perfectly fine. Kelsey, please, you have the floor.
Well, I don't think necessarily more questions, but if you have it in you to do one more Commander Shepard bumper but this one for my board, I think our fans would greatly appreciate that. It's the board is called Mass Effect Galaxies. If you want it to just be, Mass Effect Galaxies' favorite role-play board on the internet, or however you want to run it.
Okay. Favorite role-play board?
Yeah, it's specifically, it is a fan site. We do a lot of discussion, and not just on Mass Effect, but on all kind of video game media. But it's also a role-playing board for people that maybe don't have a crew to do D&D with, but can get on the internet and do basically collaborative writing with each other from perspective of the characters that they make. It's a lot of fun.
Oh, cool. Okay. And it's Mass Effect Galaxies, yes?
Yes, Mass Effect Galaxies.
Okay. I'm Commander Shepard, and Mass Effect Galaxies is my favorite role-play board on the Citadel.
I think my day was just made.
All right, Kelsey, you're spent. You're good.
That was the best birthday present ever.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
And thanks for having me, guys.
So I guess the last question we always ask, you have the soapbox to promote anything you'd like to promote. You can promote your website, you can promote your Facebook, your Twitter, anything any upcoming projects or events.
Pretty much
you have the soapbox.
Yeah,
promote
really,
whatever you'd like.
Even if you want to bully people into playing as male Shepard, you can do that too.
Cool. Okay. Well, let's see. I think I've mentioned some of these before, but I will promote, because I'm a responsible professional on the internet and I have to get my plugs in. I'll promote The Irrelevant Show, which is the show I do here on CBC Radio in Canada. And we're actually available as free podcasts, entire episodes and individual sketches at cbc.ca/irrelevantshow. I also do a TV show we previously mentioned called Tiny Plastic Men. We're at tinyplasticmen.com, and we do have a YouTube channel where you can see some of our sketches and some of our web content on there. And let's see, Rapid Fire Theater and Dynasty, of course, who started me off in improv, rapidfiretheater.com, Improvaganza, if you happen to be in Edmonton or in striking distance. You can come see that starting on, I believe, the 18th of June. And, I'm going to be at the Denver Comic Con this weekend, June 13th to 15th. And we'll actually have a number of the Mass Effect cast there. Jennifer Hale's going to be there. Raphael Sbarge will also be there, and Kimberly Brooks. So 4 of us in the same place. Looking forward to that. And I guess I'll also be a guest at DragonCon coming up at the end of August in Atlanta.
If you can ever get out to Salt Lake Comic Con, it's getting really, really big. It'd be awesome because I'd love to meet you face to face.
Cool. Well, I mean, please pass on that suggestion to the organizers. If that's an invitation.
I just did, actually.
I was going to say, I think
it's number 3 in the nation now, so.
Cool.
It's doing really well.
Are you planning on, do you ever get out to San Diego Comic Con?
No, I haven't been to San Diego yet. I go to DragonCon most years, and actually I've been going since 1998 to DragonCon as a fan. And the last couple of years, I've attended, of course, in any more official capacity. And DragonCon is great, one of my favorites. I don't think I could ever miss it. And San Diego is something, though, that I really should see one of these days.
Yeah, it's great, and it's a huge convention.
That's what I understand.
Yeah.
Oh, go on, Kelsey. You can say it.
Say what?
It's massive.
It is. It's quite massive.
Excellent. And have you guys ever been to DragonCon?
I have not been to DragonCon. I've heard about it, and it's all night shenanigans.
I've wanted to go, though.
It is fun shenanigans, indeed. And, just the percentage of people, of the attendees who are in costume, it is like just being at a big, 3-day costume party.
Yeah, I've never been out to that area. I've only been to San Diego Comic Con, and I almost went to WonderCon a couple of months ago, but it was during tax season, and I was helping out at the family business, which is accounting. So
of course,
didn't get much time to get out. Yeah.
Yes, but San Diego one day hopefully I will get to see that.
Well, Mark Meer, thank you so much for being on our podcast. Our fans are going to love this episode. You've been fantastic, and wish you the best of luck with. I guess you can't say best of luck. You say break a leg, yeah, shouldn't we? With all your improv, and we look forward to hearing you. And is your wife also on Dragon Age 3 as well?
Yeah, I believe we're doing some recording today, so maybe you guys will get her on the show one of these days.
That would be awesome.
She can break her own NDA.